Hello students, I am Sobia Zafar from Jamia Hamdard, New Delhi. Today we are going to discuss module Bioavailability and Bioequivalence Testing under paper Product Development Part 2. The learning objectives of this module are: first, what is bioavailability bioequivalence study, what is the need of bioavailability bioequivalence study, the testing methodology including the study design, and also we will be discussing the parameters for the evaluation of bioequivalence. For starting, the escalating global healthcare cost has prompted efforts in most of the countries to reduce those costs. Since most of these interventions in healthcare are done through medication, therefore, a major strategy for lowering the medication cost and thereby reducing its contribution to the total cost of healthcare has been the introduction of generic equivalents of brand name drugs in the global markets. The strategy has been found to be effective with a greater average saving and hence greater reduction in cost without sacrificing quality. With a huge market of generic drugs globally, it is imperative to maintain the pharmaceutical quality and in vivo performance of the generic drugs, and this should be assessed reliably. The safety and efficacy of the generic drugs should be comparable to that of the corresponding innovator drugs. This assessment of interchangeability between the generic and the innovator product is obtained using study of in vivo equivalence or bioequivalence. The bioequivalence concept has been accepted worldwide by the pharmaceutical industry and national regulatory authorities for over 20 years and is applied to new as well as generic products. Bioavailability and bioequivalence studies by regulation should ensure that the pharmaceutically equivalent drug product and the reference product are therapeutically equivalent. Similar approaches in measuring bioavailability should be followed for the demonstration of bioequivalence, as both the studies deals with the release of drug substance from the dosage form and its subsequent absorption into the systemic circulation. Bioavailability in general can be determined by obtaining a drug or metabolite systemic exposure profile, which can serve as a benchmark for the subsequent bioequivalence studies. The bioequivalence studies are conducted for the comparison of two drug products with the identical drug substance. Now, what is the need for bioavailability bioequivalence studies? First is to evaluate the absolute systemic availability of the drug from the dosage form, to estimate the inter and intra-subject variability, to define the effect of the changes in physicochemical properties of the drug substance and the effect of the drug product on the pharmacokinetics of the drug, to determine if the bioavailability parameters are linear over the proposed clinical dose range, also to study the food effects, to serve as a surrogate for therapeutic equivalence to enable switchability, and is an appropriate measure for the quality control of the product in vivo. Before starting with the bioavailability bioequivalence testing methodology, we will be discussing the several type of equivalences which are encountered in pharmaceutical operations. These are: first is chemical equivalence. Two or more drug products are said to be chemically equivalent if they contain the same labeled chemical substance as the active ingredient in the same amount. Second is pharmaceutical equivalence. The two or more drug products are similar in purity, quality, strength, content uniformity, disintegration and dissolution characteristics, but they may differ in excipients. These drug products are said to be pharmaceutical equivalent. Next is bioequivalence. Bioequivalence is a relative term which compares drug substance in two or more dosage form and reaches the systemic circulation at the same rate to the same relative extent, giving identical plasma concentration time profiles without significant statistical differences. Next is therapeutic equivalence. Two or more drug products are said to be therapeutically equivalent if they contain the same therapeutically active ingredient that elicit identical pharmacological response and can control the disease to the same extent. The FDA considers drug products therapeutically equivalent if they are approved as safe and effective, are pharmaceutically equivalent and bioequivalent, and manufactured in compliance with the current good manufacturing practices and are adequately labeled. Next is clinical equivalence. The two drug products are said to be clinical equivalent when the same drug from the two or more dosage forms gives equal in vivo effects as measured by the pharmacological response or by the control over a symptom or a disease. Requirement of bioequivalence studies. The three important conditions for which bioequivalence studies are required are: first is when a generic formulation is tested against an innovator brand, second where a proposed dosage form is different from that used in the pivotal clinical trial, and third when the significant changes are made in the manufacturing of the marketed formulation. For a systemically absorbed drug, the test and the reference drug product are considered bioequivalent if first the rate and extent of absorption of the test drug does not show significant difference from that of the reference drug when administered at the same molar dose of the active ingredient under similar experimental conditions in either a single dose or multiple doses. Second, the extent of absorption of the test drug does not show a significant difference from the extent of absorption of the reference drug when administered at the same molar dose of the active ingredient under similar experimental conditions in either a single dose or multiple dose, and the difference from the reference drug in the rate of absorption of the drug is intentional, is reflected in its proposed labeling, is not essential to the attainment of effective body concentrations on chronic use, and is considered medically insignificant for the drug. Bioequivalence may sometimes be demonstrated using in vitro bioequivalence standard, especially when such an in vitro test has been correlated with the human in vivo bioavailability data, or may be demonstrated through comparative clinical trials or the pharmacodynamic studies. The composition of the bioequivalent drug products may vary in terms of inactive ingredients, provided the manufacturer gives the information that the differences do not affect the safety or efficacy of the product. Before going into the details of each step involved in bioavailability bioequivalence testing, a flowchart has been provided which is enumerating the different steps involved in the testing methodology. The different steps involved are: first is the types of design, the study population, study condition, administration of treatments, sampling schedule, parameters assessed with the bioavailability and bioequivalence studies, bioanalytical methodology, pharmacodynamic studies, and the statistical analysis. Moving on, the different types of designs used in bioequivalence study are: first is the Paller group design. In a Paller group design, the subjects are divided randomly into groups, with each group receiving only one treatment randomly. The number of groups is the same as the number of treatments to be compared. Blood samples are taken appropriately at adequate time intervals and are assayed for the drug concentration. The major limitation with the Paller group design is that the error due to inter-subject variation is high, since each subject receives only one formulation. The human subjects vary in size, weight, blood volume, and also in the way they metabolize the drug. Therefore, due to large error, we preferably use a crossover design for the conduction of bioequivalence studies. Now, crossover design. The crossover design is made in such a way that each subject receives two or more different treatments on successive occasions. This design can be utilized with any number of treatments, with the condition that the number of subjects must be a multiple of the number of treatments. The different types of crossover designs are: first, Latin square crossover design. In a Latin square crossover design, each drug product is administered only once to each subject and once in each study period. Unlike Paller design, all the subjects do not receive the same formulation at the same time in a given study period. They are administered different formulation. A Latin square crossover design for a bioequivalence study in human volunteers is provided on screen. In the table provided, the period refers to the time period in which the study is performed. For a 2-period study, it is a study that is performed on 2 different days, separated by a washout period during which most of the drug is eliminated from the body, and this is generally about 10 elimination half-lives. The sequence refers to the number of different orders in the treatment groups in the study. The second type of crossover design is the replicated crossover design. To deduce the individual bioequivalence, to estimate the intersubject variability for both the test and the reference drug products, and to determine the subject by formulation interaction variance, a replicated crossover design is used. The FDA generally recommends a 4-period 2-sequence 2-formulation design as shown on screen. Here R refers to reference and T refers to treatment. It is clear from the table that the same reference and the same test are given twice to the same subject. Other sequences may also be possible. Reference to reference, test to test comparison can also be made using such type of designs. The crossover designs offers several advantages such as minimization of inter-subject variability in the plasma drug level and variation due to the time effect of formulation variables on bioequivalence can be clearly obtained using such type of designs. However, there are certain limitations with the crossover designs as well. These are: they are more time consuming, as an appropriate washout period between subsequent drug product administration is essential. This may further enhance if the drug has a longer elimination half-life. A greater number of formulations to be tested may make the study more difficult and the subject dropout rate may increase. However, this can be overcome by using balanced incomplete design where a subject receives no more than 2 formulations. So the next type of design is the balanced incomplete block design, BIBD. This is an extension of the crossover design where the subjects do not receive all drug products but at least 2 of them. These are particularly suitable if the large number of formulation is to be tested or if a considerable washout period is there, since the administration of all formulation to each subject may make the trial too time consuming. The crossover principle still remains intact and the error due to the inter-subject variations is low. The design for BIBD with 4 different formulations of a drug in 6 subjects is shown on screen. Here S is the standard formulation and T is the test formulations. In the next step, we will be discussing about the study population to be used in bioavailability bioequivalence studies. For bioavailability bioequivalence studies, the minimum number of subjects should not be less than 16 unless justified for ethical reason. The subject withdrawn or drop out from the study can be replaced provided the substitute follows the same protocol as that by the withdrawn subject and is tested under similar and controlled conditions. The final statistical analysis must include data of all subjects, and the reason for not including partial data and unincluded data should also be documented. The study should be conducted on healthy adult male-female volunteer with the choice of gender consistent with the usage and safety criteria. If the drug product is to be used by both the sexes, then attempt should be made to include similar proportions of males and females in the study. Risk to women of childbearing potential should be considered on an individual basis. Women taking contraceptive drugs should normally not be included in the study. The subject's age should be in the range of 18 to 55 years, as this is considered between the age of legal majority and the onset of associated changes in the organ function. The height or weight ratio for healthy volunteer subjects should be within 15% of the normal range. The routine test, including tests for liver, kidney, hematological functions, should also be ascertained by the supervising physician through medical examination. If the drug product is intended to be used by geriatric population, attempt should be made to include subjects of 60 years of age or older. For drugs posing potential hazards to a specific group of population, the choice of subjects should be narrowed, like drugs with a teratogenic potential should only be tested in males. For drugs where the risk of toxicity is significant, the studies should be carried out in the patient with the concerned disease and whose disease state is stable. Genotyping or phenotyping of the subject should be considered for exploratory bioavailability studies and all studies using parallel group design. It may also be considered in crossover studies for safety or pharmacokinetic reasons. If a drug is known to be a subject to major genetic polymorphism, studies could be performed in panel of subjects of known phenotype or genotype for the polymorphism. In the next step, we will be discussing about the study conditions for the bioavailability bioequivalence studies. All the conditions including study environment, fluid and diet intake, post-dosing procedures, sampling schedule, etc. should be standardized and compliance to these should be stated in the protocol and reported at the end of the study to ensure that all the variability except for that arising from the product being tested has been minimized. Food effect bioavailability studies are generally conducted for new drugs and drug products during the investigational new drug period to examine the effects of food on the rate and extent of drug absorption on administration of the drug product shortly after a meal compared to that administered under the fasting condition. The fed bioequivalence studies are conducted for ANDAs to establish their bioequivalence to the reference listed drug under fed conditions and also when the study drug is to be given with food or where the dosage form is a modified release product, and when fasting state studies make assessment of Cmax and Tmax difficult. It is recommended that the fed bioavailability bioequivalence studies should be conducted under meal conditions, which may provide the greatest effects on GI physiology, maximally affecting the systemic drug availability. The test meal should consist of high fat and approximately 800 to 1000 calories in the meal. The caloric breakdown from the test meal should be approximately 150 calories from protein, 250 from carbohydrates, and 500 to 600 calories from fat. A scientific rationale should be provided for any variation in the caloric breakdown. For NDAs, the food effect bioavailability studies may be conducted using meals with different combination of fats, carbohydrates and proteins for exploratory or label purposes. However, one of the meals should be high fat, high calorie test meal as described above. Protocol should specify the suitable and appropriate diet. For orally administered dosage form, the fluid intake may greatly influence the gastric passage. Therefore, the test and the reference product should be administered with standardized volume of fluid. The other meals and fluids taken after the treatment should also be standardized in regard to the composition and time of administration during the sampling period. The steady state study is considered appropriate in the following cases: for drugs having long terminal elimination half-life and blood concentration after single dose cannot be followed for a sufficient time, when terminal elimination phase constant cannot be followed for adequate time period due to low assay sensitivity, for drugs that are toxic and should be assayed in patients with particular disease state, for modified release dosage form, for drugs showing large interpatient variability and inducing their own metabolism, where an innovative coating is applied for the coated dosage form, for the combination products where ratio of plasma concentration of individual drug is important, for drugs that exhibit non-linear pharmacokinetics, and last for the drugs which are likely to accumulate in the body. The next step in the bioavailability bioequivalence study is the administration of treatments. Under this, first is the dosage strength. The highest strength of the drug product intended to be marketed should be tested in the studies. However, in some cases due to safety reasons, the lower strength may be used. For ANDAs, the same lot and strength of the drug product used in the fasting bioequivalence study should be tested in the fed bioequivalence study. For products with multiple strength in the ANDAs, if fed bioequivalence studies has been performed on the highest dose strength, then the bioequivalence determination for one or more lower strengths can be waived based on the comparison of the dissolution profile. For uncomplicated drugs in which the proportions of excipients to the drug and the dissolution characteristics are the same, the bioavailability of one strength can be established. The decision to test other strengths of the drug product depends on the extent to which the formulation differs among strengths. However, for complicated drugs including those which have narrow therapeutic ranges, steep dose response characteristics, or with non-linear kinetics that would influence a single dose study, the bioavailability for each drug strength should be established. The next step is the treatment which are to be administered in the bioavailability bioequivalence study. For the fasted state studies, the subjects should be fasted for at least 10 hours and then administered the drug product with 240 ml of water. Food should not be given for at least 4 hours post dose. Water should be given for 1 hour before and after drug administration. Standardized meal should be provided at the scheduled time in each period of the study. For a multiple dose study, fasting for 2 hours before and after the evening dose is considered acceptable. For the fed state studies, following overnight fasting for at least 10 hours, the subjects are provided the recommended meal 30 minutes prior to the drug product administration. Afterwards, the same procedure is followed as in the case of fasted treatments. In an application for a generic test product, it is compared with the corresponding drug product of the innovator company. The applicant should justify the choice of the reference product. For an A-bridge application which claims essential similarity to the reference product, application to numerous associate countries from one associate country can be made based on the bioequivalence with the reference product. However, the application can only be accepted unless there is a significant difference between the reference product originating from the same manufacturer in terms of qualitative qualitative and quantitative composition of the excipients. The concerned associate countries can request information from the first associate country for the reference product, namely on the composition, manufacturing process and finished product specifications. The next step involved in the bioavailability bioequivalence testing is the sampling schedule. The whole blood, serum or plasma are the most commonly used biological fluids for the sampling in the study. Urine can also be used as a biological fluid for sampling, provided the concentration of the analyte in the blood are too minute to be detected and a substantial amount of the drug is eliminated unchanged in the urine. To obtain an adequate plasma concentration time profile of the active substance, sufficient number of samples should be collected. For single dose trials of immediate release product, the blood sampling period should extend to at least 3 elimination half-lives. Samples should be obtained for sufficient period so as to ensure area extrapolated from the time of the last measured concentration to infinite time is only a small percentage of the total area under curve. The truncated area under curve is not desirable except in cases such as in the presence of enterohepatic recycling, where terminal elimination rate constant cannot be determined accurately, and also for drugs with a longer half-life. Comparison of extent of exposure using truncated AUCs at 72 hours is acceptable. 3 sampling points should be obtained at the absorption phase, 3 to 4 at the projected Tmax and 4 sampling points at the elimination phase. The number of points to calculate the terminal elimination rate constant should be determined using a semi-logarithmic plot. In case of single dose studies for urinary excretion data, urine should be collected for 7 or more half-lives. Quantitative creatinine determinations of each urine sample are also required. The proper documentation of the time and the place of sampling should be provided. For the bioequivalence study for immediate release products, the subjects experiencing emesis during the course are deleted from statistical analysis if the vomiting occurs at or before 2 times median Tmax. For the modified release products, the data from the subjects who experience emesis at any time during the labeled dosing interval can be deleted from the study. The next we will be discussing about the assessment parameters in the bioavailability bioequivalence study. Under this, the first is the peak plasma concentration. The peak plasma concentration, that is Cmax, refers to the maximum plasma drug concentration obtained after drug administration orally. It is influenced by the size of the dose administered and provides the indication that the drug is sufficiently systemically absorbed to provide the therapeutic response. For most of the drugs, the plasma drug concentration has been found to influence pharmacodynamic effect of the therapeutic. It also provides warning of the possible toxic levels of the drug. Cmax is usually expressed in terms of microgram per ml or nanogram per ml, defining the concentration in the specific volume of blood, serum or plasma. The next parameter we assess is the time of peak plasma concentration, that is Tmax. The Tmax refers to the time to reach maximum drug concentration after drug administration. It provides information on the rate of drug absorption from the formulation. At Tmax, peak drug absorption occurs and the rate of absorption is exactly equal to the rate of drug elimination. However, drug absorption occurs at a slower rate on reaching Tmax. The next parameter to be assessed is the area under the plasma drug concentration versus time curve, which refers to the total area under the biological fluid concentration of the drug versus time between the time t equal to 0 and time t equal to infinity, which is calculated by the numerical integration procedure such as trapezoidal rule. According to trapezoidal rule, the area between drug concentration time curves can be estimated through the assumption that the AUC can be represented as a series of trapezoids. The total AUC is the sum of the areas of individual trapezoids. The formula for the calculation of the area of each trapezoid is as follows, where Cn is the drug concentration in the blood, plasma or serum at time Tn. The AUC is dependent on the total quantity of the available drug. The other two formulas for the calculation of the AUC from 0 to infinity are as follows, where F is the fraction of the dose absorbed, D naught is the drug dose, K is the elimination rate constant, Vd is the apparent volume of distribution and Cp is the plasma concentration. The next is the urinary drug excretion studies. These are an indirect method of estimating drug bioavailability. For drugs that are excreted unchanged in urine in significant quantities, urine sample must be collected at adequate time intervals after drug administration and the cumulative amount of drug excreted in the urine is determined. du infinity is directly related to the total quantity of drug absorbed. Specific assays are used for the analysis of the urine specimen for free drug. A graph is plotted between the cumulative drug excreted to the collection time interval. With almost complete elimination of the drug, its plasma concentration approaches to zero and the maximum amount of drug excreted in the urine is obtained. After that, a standardized, well characterized, validated bioanalytical method should be used for the estimation of drug and its metabolite in the biological fluid to yield reproducible and reliable results which can be satisfactorily interpreted. Moving on, the next is the pharmacodynamic studies. The pharmacodynamic studies are performed if the qualitative analysis of the drug in the biological fluid cannot be made with sufficient sensitivity and accuracy, and also if the measurement of the drug concentration cannot be used as a surrogate endpoint for the demonstration of safety and efficacy of the product. An accurate pharmacodynamic effect time curve should be constructed. The parameters to be studied includes maximum pharmacodynamic effect, time for maximum pharmacodynamic effect, area under the pharmacodynamic effect versus time, and onset time for the pharmacodynamic effect. After that, proper statistical evaluation should be performed on the estimated pharmacokinetic parameters. The final is we will be discussing the criteria for the bioequivalence of the products. The two products are considered to be bioequivalent if 90% confidence interval of the relative mean Cmax, AUC 0 to T and AUC 0 to infinity of the test to the reference formulation is within 80 to 125% range. This is equivalent to the rejection of two one-sided t-tests with the null hypothesis of non-bioequivalence at 5% level of significance. The bioequivalent drug products have been listed in federal publication called Approved Drug Products with Therapeutic Equivalence Evaluation, known as the Orange Book. The Orange Book provides the therapeutic evaluation codes for the drug products, in which the first letter indicates the therapeutic equivalence, that is yes will be indicated as A or no will be indicated as B, while the second letter indicates additional information on the basis of the FDA evaluation. The following documents must be maintained with respect to the conduct of bioavailability bioequivalence studies. These include clinical data, details of the analytical method validation, analytical data of the volunteer plasma sample, which should include the following: validation data of the analytical method, chromatograms of all volunteers including any aberrant chromatogram, and the details of the chromatograms of any repeat analysis performed interday and intraday variation of the assay results, calibration status of the instruments. Raw data must also be maintained. All comments of the chief investigator regarding the data of the study submitted for review, a copy of the final report. The study report for the bioavailability and bioequivalence studies should include the following information: table of content, title of study, name and credentials of the responsible investigator, signatures of the principal and other responsible investigator, study sites and facility used, signed declaration that this was identical to that intended for marketing, results of the essays, full study protocol, report of protocol deviations, documentary evidence that all the studies are GCP compliant, demographic data, name and address of the subjects, inter and intra-patient variability, sampling schedule and deviations from their schedule time if any, details of the pharmacokinetic parameters and how they are calculated, documentation related to the statistical analysis, randomization schedule, volunteer-wise plasma concentration and the time point for the test and reference products, pharmacokinetic parameters, ANOVA statistical analysis. The next part is the retention of bioavailability bioequivalence sample. All the bioavailability bioequivalence samples should be retained by the organization for a period of 3 years after the conduct of study or 1 year after the expiry of drug, whichever is earlier. The study sponsor or the drug manufacturer should provide the testing facility batches of the samples in such a manner that the reserve samples can be selected randomly to ensure that the samples are representative of the batches provided for the study and are retained in their original container. The quantity of the reserved samples should be sufficient to carry out twice all the in vitro and the in vivo tests performed in the bioavailability and bioequivalence study. The last part of the bioavailability bioequivalence testing methodology is the comparative clinical studies. In some instances, due to lack of meaningful pharmacodynamic parameters which can be measured, comparative clinical studies has to be performed to demonstrate bioequivalence between the two drug products. The number of subjects to be studied will depend on the variability of the target parameters, and the acceptance range is much higher than the number of subjects in the bioequivalence studies. Important consideration for clinical studies are: First, the target parameter which represents the clinical endpoints from which response is to be derived should be defined. Second, the size of the acceptance has to be defined on the case by case basis depending on the natural course of the disease, efficacy of the available treatments and the chosen target parameters. Third, using the confidence interval approach for statistical analysis, it is crucial to rule out that the test product is inferior to the reference product by more than the specified amount. Thus, a one-sided confidence interval may be appropriate. The confidence interval may be derived from either parametric or non-parametric methods. And last, for some cases, a placebo and safety endpoints should be included in the study. In this module, we have studied regarding bioavailability and bioequivalence, the types of designs used in bioavailability bioequivalence studies. Furthermore, the different steps involved in bioavailability bioequivalence studies have been discussed. Thank you.